Hi, everybody. I'm sports psychologist Dr. Andrew Jacobs. I'm the host of the Sports Psychology Hour. It airs every Sunday morning on 810 WHB here in Kansas City. You can listen to it live from 7 to 8 Central Time on 810WHB.com. And in addition to my radio show, which I'm in my 34th year of doing, we've also started doing podcasts, and we do it here on Facebook every Tuesday night from 7 to 7:30 Central Time. So go to my website, winnersunlimited.com. Click on the podcast tab and you can hear all kinds of years. I've got 10 years of podcasts on there, all kinds of stuff. I cover everything: sports psychology, confidence, motivation, kids sports, youth sports. I talk a lot about my book that I wrote, Just Let Them Play, guiding parents, coaches, and athletes through youth sports. And I do these Facebook live shows interviewing people in the sports world who want to talk about confidence and things like that, but also want to talk about youth sports. And tonight, I've got Aaron Locks with me. He leads the National Academy of Athletics. He's out in California. Aaron's been on with us before. We've got similar mindsets, similar visions about youth sports. And I want to thank you, Aaron, for joining us tonight. I appreciate you being with me again.
Happy to be involved, and I love your book, by the way. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Jeff Montgomery, Kansas City Royals all-time closer, and Pete Malone, who's in the Hall of Fame of Swimming, co-wrote it with me. And I had them write it with me because each of them, in addition, I worked with the Kansas City Blazers swim team for 30 years. We had 8 Olympians. And Jeff Montgomery was the Kansas City Royals closer when I was a team psychologist with him in 1990. But both of them coached my sons. Jeff coached my oldest son, Jonathan, in baseball. Pete coached my younger son, Gregory, in swimming. And he went on to swim until he was a senior in college at New York University. And I spent a lot of time with both of them, and I admire them as athletes and coaches. But more importantly, when they coached both of my sons, their perspective. So we put that together. And, it's been called the Bible of youth sports by some people because we talk about everything. But you and I are in sync with something, and that's what's going on with youth sports. And I want to share something about my radio show Sunday before we get into our discussion. I talked about 2 things that have happened recently. In October 2023, at a 9-year-old football game in St. Louis, a father showed up with a gun and shot the coach, not one time, not 3, 5 times. 5 times in front of these kids because he wasn't playing his son. He subsequently got arrested, and just now they're finally processing everything a year and a half later. But the coach said, well, I brought a gun too, but I left it in the car. I'm like, what the hell are you doing with guns at a 9-year-old football game?
Right.
That was number 1. Number 2 was there was a basketball game recently, a high school basketball game, where I saw the video of what happened at the end. The game ends, and the referee, an older gentleman, white-haired guy, gets drilled in the back of the head with a basketball, gets knocked down, and stuff's getting thrown at him. He had to have security pick him up and walk him off the court. This stuff is sick. It's disgusting. Youth sports, high school sports is supposed to be fun, right? And it is, but wacko parents and adults are ruining youth sports. And I know you agree with me on this. I want to get your thoughts on this. Let's start off with that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And second of all, it's so sad to think about that a referee or a coach or anybody has to protect themselves when they're going out to work with kids, right? That's an issue. I think it's a systemic issue. And again, there's different pockets depending on where you live in terms of what's going to happen or what you have to deal with. But there is one thing that's real right now, and that's sad. And that if you're a parent listening, this is important for you to hear. Right now, I do a little work with Project Play, right? Which you guys can find out about. But the gist of it is that in the 80s, over 85% of kids would sign up to play a team sport each year, right? It was fun. We went out there and played. We had a great time, right? Not to mention the fact that we'd go down the street and play with our friends, and we learn to compete and fail and go through all those life lessons that we got from sport.
We got to learn how to do that on our own. We didn't have parents, adults telling us what to do. Go ahead.
And the problem is that those same parents, not all, but some, I don't want to speak in absolutes, but there's a lot of parents that are so focused on getting their kid college scholarship, they don't realize the most important thing is to help them fall in love with playing sport, right? So here's the problem right now. There's a study that came out, which just came out early January, that says nationwide in America, less than 50% of kids are signing up to play a team sport each year. And the reason is it's not much fun. It's too much pressure. And they're focused on specialization and elite and club and travel, trying to focus on where they're going instead of helping the kids, 9 years old, fall in love with playing it and play everything, right? So recreation is the answer, and we can get into more than that. But the reality is, for me, is we've got to bring the sports back and give it back to the kids, and find a way for the parents that are engaged and involved to do it in such a way that it's a positive experience for kids. Because if they're not, nationwide, 7 out of 10 kids will play 2 seasons and they're out. They don't want to do it anymore.
You and I are the same from the same generation. You're in your 4th decade of work. I'm in my 44th year of work as a sports psychologist, one of the first trained sports psychologists in the country. I have for years talked about this stuff, and for the most part, as I started, I got flipped off. I got told, "You're full of it. Get out of here. I don't listen to you. Come on, we don't need any of that stuff." Now, all of a sudden, people are like, "Oh, you know what? This is actually important stuff now," because what you just said, 70 to 80% of kids by age 12 have quit sports, individual and team sports, because they're burned out. They're tired. It's not fun anymore. They're constantly being told how to play by adults and parents. The idea for me, Aaron, one of my concerns, the idea of play, what is that? It's going out and having fun. Kids don't go out and play sports anymore. They go out and are drilled how to run drills. They don't play. You don't see kids going up to the grade school or the park, a group of kids going up and playing without a parent telling them what to do, right?
Right. So here's the interesting thing. I'm on a mission to change child labor laws. Now, you're going to think I'm nuts. Hang with me a little bit. I'm not talking about 1900, 1910 when they're going to work in factories, but here's what's happened. Youth sports to some kids, because parents are so focused, in my opinion, in the wrong directions with coaches, it's become a job instead of joy, right? And if you're 9 years old and youth sports is a job, I'm out of this thing. I don't want to go to work. I want to go play. And if there's a way that we can re-engage kids in the process and help them fall in love with playing the game, it's going to be amazing. You know, I told you about this last time, but it's very interesting. I was taking some notes. Buster Posey, who is with the San Francisco Giants. I was with the infielders. We were hanging out one day, long story. We're having a conversation, and everybody's talking, what do you think it takes for a kid to get to play high school varsity, get to play college, or get to paid to play? You know the answer is? They're talking about fundamentals and discipline and all these different factors. And Buster Posey came over and kind of got me a headlock. And he said, it's passion, dude. It's passion.
It's fun, passion, enjoyment.
Right? So if your child loves playing, you know what they're saying? Hey, Dad, I want to play catch. But if you're there and you have to say, hey, son, let's go play catch, that means they're not quite in love with this thing. And we've got to do a better job as the adults bringing youth sports back to a level where it is fun first.
So, in my opinion, one of the big problems is money. Okay. Youth sports is not a $1 million business. It's a multi-billion-dollar business, maybe even $1 trillion business.
$7 billion industry in the United States this year.
Which tells you a lot right there.
Yes.
There's money for coaches' fees. There's money for uniforms. There's money for cleats. There's money for tournaments. There's money for traveling. There's money for everything. Everything costs money.
Right.
You know, I know I still have, and my wife hates it because I save stuff. I still have a couple of the bats when I played youth baseball. I have a Mickey Mantle wooden bat. I have Kansas City. I have the Kansas City A's, who used to be here after they're in Philadelphia, before they went to Oakland and now to Las Vegas. But anyway, I have a Kelly Green bat that they gave out at Bat Day. I still have that bat. Okay? Because back then it was fun. We didn't have parents. In fact, I just mentioned on my show, one of my best friends, name's Greg Hurd, lived next door to me. He started playing 3-2 youth baseball in 6th grade. In fact, I talked to him about it yesterday. So I mentioned on my show, when you started playing baseball, right? It was 6th grade, wasn't it? I said, yeah. I said, that stuff didn't exist anymore. Now you've got, Aaron, here in Kansas City, there's a soccer organization that has tournaments for guess what age? Guess what age they have tournaments for?
4 or 5 year olds. I could just imagine. It was crazy, right? Oh, come on. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
2-year-olds. 2-year-old. There's a story a couple years about in the newspaper here. Yeah, they've got kids learning how to play soccer at 2, and they have tournaments for them.
Yeah,
that's sick.
Yeah,
right. It's disgusting.
Well, and the problem is that the focus and the emphasis. If I'm a parent, if you're a parent, you're listening, and you put your kid out there to play the first time, and you want them to fall in love with this, Start with a camp, a clinic, a recreational program where they can learn to fall in love. They can have fun. They can learn the boundaries, what direction to run, where's right field, where's left field, all those things, because they'll develop confidence and a love for doing it. Instead, what is happening now is they're being put in a situation where they're learning to compete right away. And unfortunately, a lot of them crumble because they don't have the wherewithal to make it through.
This is my favorite chapter in my book. Embracing failure can lead to fun. It's okay to fail. It's okay to, why is everybody quitting at these ages? It's not fun anymore because they're yelled at and screamed at because they fail. I have a 11-year-old boy that I started to see. I've seen him once now. His parents came in the first time. When he was playing 9-year-old travel baseball, not rec, travel baseball, the coach would yell at him when he would strike out or make a mistake. And he came in my office, and now he's 11, very, very, very smart young man. Why are you here? And he starts crying because my coach yelled at me all the time, and now I'm scared to play. But who's your coach now? Now my dad's my coach, and I have fun, but I'm still scared because I remember that coach yelling at me.
Doc, I got to tell you a story that I think it's going to come right to your heart, I think, on this one. So I was giving a talk actually in Southern California. 1,200 parents were there, and it's for a league, big, wide league. And I said, okay, how many of you, because I'm getting them all excited, this and that, are excited for your child to fail this season? And everybody looked at me like I was nuts. And I said, wait. This is right. The best in the world in baseball get out 7 out of 10 times. The best shooters in basketball miss half the shots they take. But they learn to fail and get back up, right? So I end this thing, I'm breaking it down, and I said, all right, so the chant at the end is embrace the suck, embrace the suck. Because if the parents can be able to have no judgment, rather support their kids through this journey and allow it to be their journey, allow it to be their game, and just have fun with it, you know what's going to happen? The kids are going to learn to get themselves back up. They're going to learn to have fun again. And that's
and with that, we're seeing parents who have no self-control. I mean, we could talk about society today and politics and all the angst and anger there, but we're not. But I think that has a lot to do with this because it's pervasive for our society. A couple of years ago, I had a woman on my show, Christy Moore, an umpire, softball umpire in Mississippi.
Okay.
She was being heckled by a mom in the stands as she was umpiring the game. She asked this lady to stop. She kept doing it. She asked her again. She goes, if you keep this up, we're going to have to kick you out. Well, she kept it up, so she was kicked out of the game. Officials came, took her out. Security took her out. As Christy went to go to her car, this lady came over and punched her right in the face, blackened her eye, hurt her, knocked her down, busted her nose, and took off running. Reports the police. She gets arrested soon after. Her mugshot, Aaron, she's wearing a T-shirt that said Mother of the Year. And then she wanted to sue Christy because she got negative publicity from her mugshot. Okay, why are people doing this? Because they want to live vicariously through their kids. It's not about the kids. It's about them and their egos and their notoriety. So we've got to put something together, right? We've got to do something about this.
Yeah. And, the fallacy is that when you're young, that by doing all of these things and specialized elite, that's the only way you're going to get to make it to college to get a scholarship. And you and I both know less than 0.001% are going to get that scholarship anyways. So many things, and they'll grow into their bodies where they're going to fall in love and do it. Now, I got one more I want to share, a quick story because I don't want to go places, but how about this one? So my daughter, when she was playing softball, okay, and she was little and she played. I had her play at 9 rather than 8 because I wanted, a slow sport. She gets out there and she plays third base. She actually was pretty good. So this ball gets hit, bam, one hop, hit Mia right in the thigh, and it knocks her down. So she's laying down. Now her mom goes to get up, and I apologize. I apologize to you even this day, later. I went to reach to stop her, and unfortunately I grabbed the back of her hoodie and she slipped and fell back. But forget that part of the story.
Did she get hurt?
No, Melissa.
Okay, well, that's good. You're in good shape then. Okay.
Mama's fine. But here's the deal. This is the cool part. My daughter, who got knocked down, and she was little, she looked around for a second. She had tears in her eyes, right? And you want to help her, but I wanted to give her a chance to get herself back up. The coach went to walk up, and she was like in a push-up position, and she put her hand up to the coach like, no, I got this. And she got up, tears in her eyes, wiped herself off, and got back and played the rest of that inning. The cool part about it is when you think about that, we could have taken that moment away from my daughter We could have stolen that opportunity for her to learn that lesson that you and I learned on the playgrounds because our parents weren't there to pick us up. And if we did all that, right, our kids, the whole deal. So I feel like allowing it to be the kid's journey and trusting that failure is actually a good thing, right? That's how they learn. That's how we learn, right? That's how we grow.
In sixth grade, my friends and I went up to the grade school to play 500. And we decided to play a game. One of my good friends, Bob Swift, who went on to become the kicker at University of Kansas.
Yeah.
I was catching. He swung, hit the ball, threw the bat, got me right in the nose, knocked my nose out. Played for a while. I was having trouble breathing. Go home. My father says, "Well, your nose is broken." My father's a physician, and he, put it back in place. Okay. We kept playing. I mean, I hurt. There was a little blood, but I was like, "Mom, okay." Okay. Today, parents were running on the field, screaming, yelling. We've got to start to say, unfortunately, and I want to get your opinion on this. We're at the point now where I think we have to design some programs about sportsmanship, about ethics, about behavior for parents at youth sports, as well as for coaches. It goes across the board for adults.
Right. Yeah.
Because you and I have seen too much of this, and we need to put something together that leagues can implement. I think there needs to be a sportsmanship program for parents and coaches. Not at the preseason meeting where the coach says, "Well, there are a couple rules about sportsmanship. You can't yell, you can't do this, can't do that," and let it go. We need to get more extensive. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we can do some education and training, right? I think that's important. I think that I'm always leery of speaking in absolutes, and there's a lot of good programs out there, right? There's a lot of good leagues that have systems in that, so it's not everybody. But I will say the education that we can teach top down is to bring the pro athletes, to bring the college athletes, to bring the coaches in to educate the parents that get them off the treadmill in the rat race. Because the problem is, because the parents, a lot of them are looking at this as the only way my child's going to get to, the only way that this is it, and my child needs this, instead of realizing that the best way is to allow them to do that. So I agree with you. I think what we need to do is find a way to put together some programs, and maybe it's something like this, or maybe a call-in or whatnot, but we find a way to match it up so that we educate. But I'm going to tell you right now, we have a big partner that wants to be involved in what we're talking about. The Parks and Recreation departments, this is their bailiwick. This is what they do. They do it really well. And I know for a fact, we have over 325 city contracts where we partner with cities from Texas to Michigan to California, Nevada, youth sports programs, and they're all recreational, fun, instruction-based programs. I would like and think that if we create a program and we get it out to them, the audience they have, right, that they can then bring into us, we can help them. And it would be truly a win-win-win. The recreation departments would win, right? We would get the message across, the parents win, and the most important is the kids would win.
The kids win. The kids win. And then this 70-80% burnout rate starts to go down. And at the same time, maybe we start to get these coaches who are coaching 5-year-old kids that winning is not an important, or losing doesn't matter. It's about having fun, learning skills. And when you make a mistake, instead of being yelled at or criticized or degraded, you put your arm around and say, "Hey, that's okay. We're going to work on it in practice. You'll get better. Let's keep having fun."
Right.
And that's why, a couple of years ago, I read an interesting article where Roger Federer and Alex Morgan were both interviewed. Both of them said they played multiple sports till they were 14 or 15. That's when they specialized in tennis and soccer, respectively.
Right.
Two of the greatest ever. Why? Because they learned different things. They were having fun. They weren't just focusing on one thing. I think this sports specialization, one more thing to get into here. Sports specialization at 8 and 9, playing year round, is ridiculous. I think, first of all, kids are going to get hurt. They're going to get physical injuries from playing. You see the increase now in 12-year-olds having Tommy John surgery from pitching. Okay. And I think there needs to be the change in playing a team sport. When I was the University of Kansas sports psychologist, my third year up there, I worked with the men's basketball team when Larry Brown was the coach. And he said something that has stuck with me all these years. Okay. He said, one day we were sitting in his office talking, he said, "Andy, kids need to do two things. They need to play a team sport, and they need to play an individual sport. They need to play a team sport to learn about sharing, working together, and they need to play an individual sport to learn about confidence." Right. He hit that right on the head. And unfortunately today, with this sports specialization, is ruining that.
Well, think about this. I've got an old Jeep, right? But and I like to drive it around. But if a child's body is an all-terrain vehicle, that would be right, and they got to learn to drive it, right? And four wheel and fall and play. And yeah, that would be like me getting on the freeway and leaving my Jeep in first gear. That's insane, right? And not only are you going to burn it out, and they're not going to want to play, and you're going to break them down and all that. And so I feel like if we can allow the kids this opportunity. Now, here's the challenge. Let's be honest. When you and I were younger, I didn't get home till the streetlights came on, right? And what did we do? We played everything down the street. And you know how we did it? We said, all right, here we go. We picked teams. You get this guy, I get this guy. I don't want him. Okay, we traded, and then we would play. And imagine this. I was just talking to a baseball group the other day, and I thought about this. Really interesting. If we had 8 kids, right? We picked teams, and we looked down, and we had 4 mitts, 3 balls, 2 bats. We figured it out. You know what the kids do today? We don't have enough players. Where's the coach? Where's the other team? Where's the umpire? And where's the snack bar, for God's sake? Right? We didn't have any of that, right? We were lucky if we had water out there. What we do, we would say, okay, we got 4-on-4, pitcher's mound as good as first, right field's closed, and we figured out how to play the game. And then we would argue, right? We would do a little of this, right? And
we would figure things out ourselves with that.
Yes, right.
One more story for you, Aaron. My oldest son, Jonathan, is now 35 and is the proud father of a 17-year-old young lady. Okay. When the day before Jonathan started kindergarten, got a phone call from a dad who was starting a kindergarten soccer team. Said, "How'd you get my name?" Well, I got the names of the kids off the door at school and looked up all their parents. So I'm calling you up, wanted to see if you wanted him involved in soccer. I said, "Well, thanks for the call, but no, we're going to pass on that. He just likes playing wiffle ball in the backyard. He's not interested in soccer." His response to me was, "Well, obviously you don't know what you're doing and you don't know much about sports because he's going to fall behind everybody else if he doesn't get involved right now." And I said, "I do know what I'm doing and I do know a lot about sports, and you need to be careful what you say to me about that." And he hung up. My son Jonathan played soccer until he was a junior in high school. He started playing in 3rd grade.
There you go. Here's one. So I got a good friend of mine, Lyman, very good friend of mine. And we had a conversation. One of his best friends is a football coach, right? And we were away and we were having a conversation about that. And he said, you know what? Over 80% of the kids they recruit for Division I college football, they want them to play 2 sports through their junior and high school. So if you want to get your kid a scholarship, the best in the United States, the best in the world in college football are saying play multiple sports for a lot of different reasons. That's what they're telling us.
Well, the professional athletes, the teams that I've worked with, most of the athletes who make it to that level play different sports, not just soccer, not just baseball, not just football. They played a bunch of different things somewhere. And a lot of them, to be honest with you, were involved in music as well.
Right.
Okay. A lot of them played an instrument. A couple of them sang because they had diverse interests. And I think that's what we got to focus on. Okay, Aaron. So you and I are going to work on this. We're going to figure something out because we've got to get people to realize this. So the message you would give to, let me ask you this question. The message you give to parents listening, the parents who are going to hear this, what do you say to them about their 5 and 6-year-old that's getting started, want to get involved in some sports activity? What would you say?
All right. First of all, it's a great question. And I remember when my kids, by the way, I've not only done this, and 2 million kids have come through my camp. So I may have a little clue what's going on. But both my kids played sports all the way through high school, multiple sports all the way through. And here's the answer. It's really simple. Start out recreationally, not travel, not club, not elite. When you start them out, start them with a camp or a clinic first. Let them fall in love. Let them understand the game. Let them understand the rules, the concepts, because then when they go to a team, they'll have a chance to have confidence. Because we all know if you get into something and you know what you're doing and you have confidence, you're more likely to develop a love for it and want to do it more rather than just facing, because they're going to fail anyways. So the biggie to me is start recreational, find your Parks and Rec. And I know here's the pressure going to be, oh, well, we can play this, elite, whatever. I hear you. And I get it, but I'm telling you right now, if you want your child to play more than 2 seasons, my suggestion is someone who's done a little bit, focus on helping them fall in love with playing the game. By the way, do it with them, right? Go out and play catch with your kid or whatever it is, and make sure they start recreationally through either a clinic or a camp where they can start in a positive, safe, fun environment, learning the fundamentals. Because once they learn the basics, the sky's the limit.
And the other thing I would add to that, as Larry Brown said, play an individual sport and a team sport, because they teach you different areas of confidence and focus and development, and it helps you really understand things better. And then you'll start to figure it out. And my one more thing, my youngest son Gregory, he swam until he was a senior in college.
Yeah.
He got involved with swimming because in 1996, Kansas City Blazers swim team, I worked with Catherine Fox, who went to Atlanta and won 2 gold medals in swimming. On the parade after she came back to Kansas City, we got my 2 sons sat in the back of a pickup with me. Gregory got so enthralled with this, he was 5 years old. That's what got him involved in swimming. He said, "Dad, I want to swim." So he started swimming. He was playing baseball. He played soccer. And when he was 12, he came to me. He says, "Dad, I don't want to play baseball anymore." He'd already stopped soccer. "I just want to swim. That's what I love." I said, "Son, if that's what you want to do, go for it." And he swam on his own, did it all himself. I couldn't have been any prouder of him. And when he was a senior in college, he called me and he said, "Dad, I decided I'm not going to swim anymore." I said, "Really, why not?" He goes, "I'm not going to be a professional swimmer. I need to figure out what I'm going to do with myself." I said, "Hey, son, good for you." So I think the key thing I've learned personally, just like you with my sons, is I've let them develop on their own.
Yes.
And there have been people who I had to protect them from in some of these coaches because they both dealt with some that were just not right. All right, Aaron, you and I will continue working on this. People want to get a hold of you. How can they reach you?
All the social media platforms are great. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, obviously are good ones. Aaron Locks, or just check out National Academy of Athletics. We've got tons of information out there on all different platforms. I'd love to be able to help out. And we're also in a lot of communities already. So you may be surprised that we're already in your neck of the woods. So that's the best way to do it.
Well, it's great having you on again. Your message is so important, and the things you're doing are so important. I cannot thank you enough for being with us tonight.
I appreciate it. I look forward to working with you. And I really love the idea of putting together a seminar that's not a lecture, right? It's a conversation around how to help these parents and kids have amazing youth sports experiences, because we all know that's how we are, and who we are today is a lot based on who we were as kids, and that's because we got to play.
Thank you. This has been awesome. If you want to get a hold of me, check out my website, winnersunlimited.com. I have close to 10 years of podcasts on there. There's all kinds of information, articles, and things about the work I've done in these 44 years. You can always reach me at my email at drj@winnersunlimited.com, or give me a call at my office, which is 816-561-5556. Love to hear from you. Aaron, thanks again. This has been great.
Appreciate it. Be well, everybody.